All right, this is my first video. I don't know if it'll be my last because I could cover a whole lot of things. So for this first video discussing my MalletKAT setup, I just want to go over the hardware, a basic overview of all the hardware that's being utilized, and a demonstration of the first song that I set up to convince these other musicians that now forms the Genesis tribute band I play in, to convince them that I could pull this off and they don't need to find a finger playing synth player. It took them a couple weeks, but you know, after I made my MalletKAT demo for them, but convinced them, and I'm glad that they accepted the challenge and are willing to take this journey with me. It's been absolutely wonderful the past 6 years so far of doing this, and I keep enjoying learning new songs and playing more difficult songs in the Genesis repertoire with them. So I hope you enjoy this general overview. I can't cover it all. I can't really get into synthesis. I'm not going to go over a lot of the software too heavily. I kind of show you what the software is, I show you what the hardware is, but I don't really go much deeper than that. And a little discussion of overview of how I've set up the patches for this first song, Genesis song I set up for the ensemble 6 years ago, MalletKAT. So I hope you enjoy this, and if people want more information, then I'll make more videos to delve deeper into that. Thank you. is the rig as it's set up. You notice I put the case on the floor. I like it more aesthetically pleasing like that. I don't need access to the case when we play a show, and I really don't need access to the case for the most part when I'm sitting at home either. You can see I have about quite a few pedals here, and I'll talk about that. And this is the MalletKAT. Okay, this is a Grand. This is a MalletKAT Grand, although you see Pro right there. It's a Grand because it's 4 octaves. Some people ask, what are these gray pads for? Well, if you don't have the gray pad, then you're gonna get that sound. With the gray pad, much quieter. So that's all it is. As Mario, the owner of Alternate Mode, who produces these instruments, he calls them clam busters. So it's the same layout as a piano keyboard, or a marimba, or as most people like to say, a xylophone. Yes, same layout. White keys and black keys, 2s and 3s across the top, and a couple of little extra keys up front. As you can see, it says backward and forward, which means that it can go backward and forward through patches. And I have a small screen display, which you can see I put a little descriptor of what patch is being shown. That must be In the Air Tonight, right? One of the patches for it. And some other information that tells me what's going on with how I have this set up. How do you set this up? I use this as a MIDI controller. I do not use any internal sounds. You can buy these with internal sounds. I have 2 of these. You gotta have a backup when you have something strange like this. You definitely want a backup if something goes wrong. I think one of them does have internal sounds, but I don't use it. I use it as a controller, straight up just sending and receiving MIDI information. I do edit a lot of setups for each of my songs. I do have to do some pretty complex things at times, which I will be talking about as we move forward. But for now, how do you edit? Well, one of these pedals down here, this one that I have all the way over to the right, is connected to the edit function. So if I'm sitting here with mallets in my hands and I'm playing and I'm like, oh, I don't like how this is feeling with a certain function. Well, what I do is I press the edit pedal and you can see the screen changes. And if you look underneath each one of these keys, you'll see that each key is now a kind of menu function. So as I press the edit pedal, I could say, you know what? I got it on the wrong MIDI channel. So I can hit the MIDI, whoops, I hit setup, sorry. So I could hit the MIDI channel button, and then it says over here, what channel do you want it on? And I can change it with numbers. Or I could use these little forward and backward pads over here to move it, right? If I want channel, oh, sorry. Where's those pads? These pads, sorry. I can change it, right? Or there's also a set of numbers here, so I can input specific numbers. So I can do lots of things. Now this is really like having 2 keyboards in one. They set this up to where it has 2 controllers inside of it. So each patch has 2 controllers. What that means is that one controller could be transmitting on a certain MIDI channel, like MIDI channel 1, and I can set up that controller to do all these different functions on MIDI channel 1, and then I can set up another one, say, on MIDI channel 2, and I can have it act and react completely differently also, which I will demonstrate as we move forward. So it is like having 2 keyboards in one, and how do you utilize those 2 keyboards while you're playing within each patch? It's really helpful to have those. So I can do that, especially with Tony Banks, who almost always plays with 2 keyboards. I need those 2 functions quite heavily. How do I mess with that Mac Mini? I use Luna Display. Luna Display is a little dongle you plug into the back, into the USB port of the Mac Mini. You have to use one of the Thunderbolt USB ports. And Luna Display will turn anything else into the display for your Mac. So right now I'm using an iPad, and my Mac is now touch screen. So everything I see right here is what's showing up on the Mac screen. And I have it USB'd in, although I don't even need to USB it in. I could just not have it plugged into the Mac at all. I love to have it USB'd in because I know my iPad's not going to all of a sudden lose power or something in the middle of the show, because the USB cable is powering it also. Plus, the USB connection is the best connection. It can get a little grainy sometimes. when it's wireless. So it can do a peer-to-peer connection. It doesn't even need Wi-Fi. It just sees the Mac and they both talk to each other, and it can give me the display without any kind of wired connection to it, which is wonderful when I have to do some editing that doesn't require me standing here or sitting on a stool or being down here with this MalletKAT. If I need to do some type of editing or some other kind of work on this Mac, I could literally go upstairs and I'll just wirelessly control it with my MacBook and just work from my MacBook using Luna Display. And what I see on my MacBook screen is this, and I can do whatever I need to do. Programs I use, I will talk about that on a different screen when I'm going to screen capture that so I don't look so, I don't know. This is kind of, you know, be a little better if I just went ahead and screen captured. But you can see that I can touch screen. You can see that I have my IEM rig is here. This is Gig Performer. I love Gig Performer, and I'll talk about why I use Gig Performer later. Oh, well, actually, I should talk about it now. Why do I use Gig Performer? I used MainStage for a very long time. MainStage is awesome. Apple makes it. It costs $30. What does Gig Performer and MainStage do? Both of these programs are, I like to call them VST wrappers, meaning they're just, they're meant for live performance playback using your VST instruments or AU instruments. That's the Apple standard of VST, right? And it's just a wrapper for it to allow you to do that. They're meant, the programs are meant for live performance playback. Gig Performer is, I think, much more powerful than MainStage. MainStage does not, Apple does not really do much updating to MainStage. I think it's, I had problems with it as my set list got bigger and bigger, and doing all this Tony Banks Genesis stuff, every song requires a different sound. So I have tons of patches being loaded in here, and MainStage got to where it just couldn't handle it. So I bought Gig Performer, which is quite a bit more than $30, more like I think it was less than $200. And I absolutely love it. It's ultra powerful. It can do whatever you want it to do. If you're someone who likes to code or program, they allow you to do that. This thing is, I would say, they allow the user to do whatever they want to with this program, which I love, because that means if I don't like to program and I don't like to code, but I do like when they have it open for other people to do it, because if there's something I need done, I can usually find some other user who did it for me already. So I appreciate Gig Performer, and I definitely love it. It will load much faster than MainStage, my rig, so I know it's very reliable. In fact, it's running right now, and the CPU meter says 0% on the load. Usually I get as much as 4% when I'm really starting to play. Other programs I'm using Ableton Live. Ableton Live is running the DMX controls for the lights. It's running the video, and it's running all our backing tracks. So Ableton Live, and I'm using Link, which is Ableton's way to link this program and allow it to control or be controlled by another program. So Gig Performer and Ableton Live are linked. And that allows me to not ever have to go to the Ableton Live screen, do everything from within the Gig Performer screen. And the only time I have to go to Ableton Live is when I need to do some programming, editing, fixing of some things, okay? We will talk about that another time on another show. Other than that, that is my layout. I love the touchscreen interface. It's great to have. It's fun to know that I'm using a touchscreen on an actual Mac instead of an iPad. It's kind of cool. Other than that, yes, let's move forward. Okay, I just wanted to go through the patches and how this works with Gig Performer. MalletKAT was the first song I demoed to the ensemble. We were trying to start this Genesis tribute. I was supposed to play drum set. We weren't finding a synth player. I can't believe that, because what synth player would not want to do Tony Banks? I don't know why. But we weren't finding one at the time. And I said, you know what? I bet we could find a drummer faster than we could find a synth player. And I said, let me play synth. And they didn't realize what I was talking about. So I decided to try to do MalletKAT and video me playing it for them. And they were still confused for a little while and had to debate it for a couple of weeks. And then they finally let me do this. So I appreciate that. But this was the song. When I first set it up, the first problem was right at the beginning. Playing an organ sound and a lead sound. The organ is sustained, the lead sound is not. And getting all of this to work in conjunction. The easy first thing to always do is, well, if I got two sounds, why don't I just split half the keyboard and half the keyboard's one sound and half the keyboard's the other? And I believe when I did the demo, that is what I did at the time. But what I found was I was making a lot of mistakes because here I am, I got my organ sound down here and I'm hitting the organ, then I have to jump up here and play this real quick, and then I play a chord and I have to jump up real quick, and doing that jumping back and forth was causing a lot of problems. So I eventually came up with a better solution after probably, I don't know, 6 months or so of playing the song, and I did velocity switching. So velocity switching, velocity, how hard I hit the instrument. Depends on which sound is going to be played. I used a velocity switching parameter that is inside of the MalletKAT. I could have easily done this inside a Gig Performer. I believe right within their MIDI interface widget, the MIDI in widget, I think you can set velocity parameters to receive or not receive certain parameters. I think you can do that in the widget. If you can't do it in that widget, you can do it in one of their widgets. They have everything. So I could have velocity switched in there. I go back and forth between which way I'm going to program. Am I going to program inside of the MalletKAT, or am I going to inside Gig Performer, or inside of Reason, which is inside of a Gig Performer? It's a combination of all three. I use all three to some degree. For the most part, I like controlling volume with MalletKAT because when I'm in rehearsal, I got my mallets in my hands, and I don't really want to take my mallets out of my hands and do stuff. I can come over here, hit the edit pedal, hit the volume command, and make a change with my mallet still in my hand. So I kind of enjoy that freedom. Excuse me, I had a cough. So this intro, back to this. Velocity switching. This basically means my soft sound is my organ, and if I hit it loud, it's that. Soft. It's no different than sampling. If you look at a piano, a great piano sample on a synthesizer, they have, it's the same piano that they sampled, but they have it across various velocities. If you want to hit the piano soft, they recorded a soft piano strike because a loud piano strike sounds very different than a soft one. And if you want your electric piano to sound realistic, you have tons of different samples for different velocities. So I'm just doing the same thing, except it's not the same sound. So that's that. Velocity switching. So this is the intro. To the races, and then I change my patch, and that's it. That makes it a little bit easier if a mistake does occur. Sometimes, like, I missed a organ note from playing too soft, and sometimes I might hit an organ sound too loud and I get the lead sound, but it's better than the jumping back and forth, which makes me just miss the pitch completely. At least I'm playing the right pitches. The other thing is the sustain pedal. I had the sustain only assigned to the organ sound, and the lead sound is not assigned to the sustain pedal at all. So I can keep the sustain pedal down and the organ sound going while I continue with that. I have to use a sustain pedal a lot more than a synth guy. Synth guy can hold the keys down and just keep it there, and that's probably what he would have done with the organ sound anyways, not even sustain pedal at all, and just hold it down with his hand. I have to use the sustain pedal a lot more, which means I do have to think about polyphony a lot more, how many notes I can sustain at once. I use monophony a lot. My lead sound is monophonic. I can't play more than one pitch at a time. Okay. Another thing about this lead sound, I know I showed that in the Reason file, and it was just one instrument, but it is playing two pitches at once. That one instrument has, I think, 3 oscillators to it, and I probably took one of the oscillators and I tuned it up 7 half steps, which gives me a perfect fifth, so I have perfect fifths coming out of that lead sound, which is a standard synth thing to do. There's lots of lead synth sounds that do the perfect fifth thing. And so that's where I get the 2 pitches. So we go on to the next patch, and it's just organ. And sustain pedal. I also have this organ patch linked to my expression pedal for volume, because at the end of this, I kind of do a... And then after that, I use my expression pedal to fade out. And I also have the expression pedal on the lead sound because I use that during the next instrumental section quite heavily. Notice that I can sustain by holding down the mallet on the keyboard, but it doesn't feel very comfortable, so you don't do that a lot. But it is a feature that is of this instrument that you don't get with a vibraphone or a marimba or a xylophone. If you just stuck your mallet on a marimba bar, it's going to make a very short, plunky sound, and that's it. So we can actually sustain with it. We can also use this to dampen. If we put our mallet on it, we could also say we could dampen instead, but I have it set up for sustain when you hold it down. And the reason I do that, because if I use the pedal and I have this multi-pitched instrument, and you see I was playing playing a little bit of a, notes pretty fast together. If I had this pedal down, it's gonna get nasty sounding. That's me doing my best to not have sounds bleed together. So that's why I do this. Whoops. So it gets a little bit easier that way, okay? What else? I think I talked about the lead sound. I will say for this song, I researched about it, and you might hear that there are some pitches that are a little off in the instrumental section. Tony Banks did play this 2 separate pitches because he does have some fourths in there and some fifths in that. And I saw lots of keyboardists debate online about this. Should I just have one sound with the perfect fifth like I did, or should I play it as dyads going up and down the keyboard? I would say most people went for what I did. I guess it is the easy route. So even though I'm cheating a little bit, all those synth players out there are doing it too. Maybe there's a few that are like really going for it. But yeah, so that's one of my cheats, but it's a standard synth player cheat. Other than that, I don't think I have anything else to say about this. There we go. So here's the what I call the Borg. It's an 8-channel rack. Gator made this. It's got nice wheels on it and a luggage handle, so makes it easier to move around. A little bit on the bulky side to carry up and down stairs, but so I'm glad it has the wheels. But other than that, it's not too bad, and I think I got a lot put into a pretty tight space. At the top we got our power conditioner, so I got plenty of power where I can turn everything on with one switch. Then the next 2 rack spaces are the IEM wireless transmitters for IEMs for the band. We did have some little issues with, they come with these little guys right here. And we're getting some issues with dropouts, so we actually took a chance and bought the kind of the next size up antennas, and they actually work very well. So if you're having some transmission troubles with your IEMs, I recommend these. I think they're like $30 an antenna or something like that. So it's worth, if it doesn't work out, return it, right? But it's worth a try before you go into amplification, which costs quite a bit more. Then in the next 2 rack spaces, I basically am housing a Mac M4 Mini, which is running everything. It's also connected to my PreSonus Studio Live 32R, which is also acting as our as our interface for all of our IEM mixes. So we use the software on our phones to mix ourselves, and that's all being done through the Studio Live connected to a wireless router in the back, which they can connect with their phones. This is also, of course, the audio interface for my stuff that's going on inside of the Mac. So audio interface and also IEM, this is serving 2 purposes. In the middle here, I bought a little punch out rack space, which cost, I think, like $20 or something. And it has the D series punch outs and basically things that are sitting in the back that I don't want to have to deal with, just making things a little bit cleaner for putting things in. For example, my MIDI in and out for the MalletKAT is here. I also have an extra MIDI port that could be in or out, depending on what it receives, depending on my MIDI interface, which is in the back, which I'll show in a minute. This is connected to a sustain pedal that I use for the back function So for example, maybe I moved forward on a patch and I realized I moved forward too soon. This is my oops, let me hit the back pedal, and this is it. There just wasn't a proper back input for all the pedals I use on the MalletKAT itself for me to be able to do this. So I had to buy a device from MIDI Solutions, which added a pedal for me. And this MIDI Solutions device is sending a MIDI, I think it's just a MIDI note on message on a certain channel and a certain MIDI note number. And I have the software in here registering that as sending the back function for a patch change. Here I have a snake, Ethernet cable snake, which is sending out 4 channels with Ethernet cables, and you're using passive snakes. You can only really transmit 4 channels off of 1 cable. So 4 channels is going out of here as to the front of house. The 4 channels that I have on here are the left and right stereo mix of the MalletKAT, the backing tracks on 1 channel, and also the Taurus pedals, which are also being, the sounds are coming from here. So I'm running the Taurus pedal sounds, even though somebody else is playing them, they're also running from here, and that's coming out of the snake on those 4 channels. And then I have the HDMI output, which is coming straight out of the HDMI out of the back of this. I have it just going to here to this connector, so I don't have to reach in the back and find that. It's nice in there. And then I can just send an HDMI cable to front of house, and they can run my video, which is also running through here. And then I have a DMX out because we do have some little cheap lights that we use, and we use them for effects at times, and they're synced also because I'm running them also on here through Ableton. HDMI, also video is running through Ableton. The backing tracks are running through Ableton. All of that on one program. I will show that on another video. But DMX and HDMI are all running through Ableton on the Mac, and this is also running through a device called the Intech Pro DMX something or other. I have it in the I'll have it in the description, and that is just USB. That little device is USB'd into here. Then we have, this is a wired output for our drummer. Since he just sits down, he just uses a wired IEM, and we just use this little Behringer P2. I think it's like, I don't know, 40 bucks or something. I can't remember. The powered P2 sounds much better than the, I think the P1 is not powered, it's passive, and it does not sound very good. I don't recommend it. These little P2s sound wonderful. They're great. So we just plug that in with a XLR cable running over to his rig, and he's got his IEM set wired. I also used to go wired, but I tried this little thing off of Amazon, this LaCato 2.4 gigahertz transmitter thing, and it works great. And I bought 2, so I have a backup just in case something didn't get charged or something. It has its own USB charging in it, battery. Other than that, so this is, if you're looking for cheap solutions for IEMs that maybe you don't want to have the money for this, the Shure stuff, give that a try, see what you think. I have it plugged right into the audio output of the PreSonus, and the audio output is my IEM mix, so the headphone output. So I use that as my mix, and I get a nice stereo mix. All right, the back of the rig. I'm not very clean here. In fact, some of this stuff I'm not using right now because I had some issues with it, but it's worth trying out. So here is the Ethernet that was in the front. This is the little interface for it, which is connected to the PreSonus in the back, and that's what that front output for the sounds coming from the Mac are. Then I have this DMX USB device by Intech, which connects to the Mac via USB, and it's basically a DMX interface that, with the right software, will allow you to be able to control your lights and do things in time with those lights, which is pretty cool. Then here is my MIDI interface. It's got 4 ports on it, more than I need. And of course I have backups of a lot of this stuff. Well, I don't have a backup of this. If the lights don't work, we don't have lights, who cares? But I even have a backup of this. And then this is my Wi-Fi router. It works just fine. It's a little $30 TP-Link travel router, and everybody gets a signal across the whole stage with it. It works just fine. This tiny little box, I mean, look at how it's like three fingers wide. It's nothing. I tried my hand at some wireless connections instead of using a cable for the DMX. This controller works great, but it's the receivers that really weren't reliable, so we kind of went back to wired. Here's a powered hub because I needed more USB. Obviously, everything in here is USB powered. I needed a little more USB than what the Mac Mini had, so I got a powered USB hub because I want to make sure we've got full power for whatever we need. Then down here is a splitter. This is the, what is this? The Art T1, which has some balanced 1/4 inch connections on the back side of it, along with some RCAs and some other ones. So it's not just XLR, which works perfectly for me because a lot of the outputs on the back, I can go balanced 1/4 inch out and send that to the inputs on the PreSonus. So this splitter has basically everybody but me here. And so all the bandmates just come over and they plug in their microphones or whatever, or their guitar rig or their bass rig. They plug in here, it goes right into the PreSonus, and I send a snake out to front of house, and he's got the entire band ready to go. We have no amplifiers on our stage. Nobody uses an amplifier. And so we can just do that. And if they wanted to use an amplifier, we'll just stick a mic on it and still plug it in this way. No big deal. So that is the setup. Well, then you ask, okay, I got 8 channels here to split. Don't you need at least 8 just for drums? And there's not a drum on here, if you noticed. I got guitar, bass, bunch of vocal mics, and yeah. So what do we do? The drummers are fine with what I kind of have done over the years, which is we stick a Omni mic right over the bass drum, and that seems to have been enough for them. They haven't really complained about it. If they want more, then yeah, we're gonna have to build another breakout box, split that up. They're gonna have to set up all those mics for the drums and send that to the front of house also, and that's a lot more work for them, and I think they're happy with maybe doing not that much work. So I am too, because it's one less box for me to have to bring. So one microphone, we just plug it into the front and we just use that mic for us, and we don't even give it to front of house. Front of house takes care of miking the drums for themselves, and everybody's happy. Let's start with Gig Performer here. This is pretty much where this is the screen that I look at when everything's said and done. This is what it's going to look like when I'm playing on the stage. And this is the set list view. I think the set list view is fairly new to Gig Performer, although when I got into it, it was already there, but I think it was a brand new addition. Why do I like Gig Performer? It's much more powerful than MainStage. I was using MainStage for quite a while. If you don't need to have as many crazy sounds and patches for I rarely repeat a patch sound. I mean, yeah, there's some electric pianos that are repeated and some organs that are repeated, but man, Tony Banks used every synthesizer ever made for every album. Whatever was the newest, latest, and greatest, he grabbed it and used it. So it's a lot of patches and a lot of sounds, and I think MainStage couldn't handle me after a while. Gig Performer can. MainStage is $30, made by Apple. It's a great program. I love it. But it couldn't handle what I was doing. I had to upgrade to Gig Performer. Gig Performer is much more powerful. You can do a lot of things with it. You can really change the way it acts and behaves. If you're into programming and coding, you can certainly make those alterations. So I want to look at Abacab. This was the first song we did. I did to prove to these guys that maybe I could do this with mallets and you don't need a synthesizer guy. Let me do this and let's find a drummer, because we're having trouble finding a synth guy who'd want to do this. I can't understand why, because synth guys come up to me all the time now and go, man, I wish I was doing that. Well, where were you? Who cares? I like it, so I'm not getting rid of it. Here we go. So I think the view they always had before was the panels view, and this would have been your performance view. It looks a little messier, as you can see on the left side. I also don't like it because each one of these is basically one of the patches. In the set list view, I can take each one of those patches and repeat them as many times as I need, so I can just
use the forward pedal on the MalletKAT and just go forward through my patches and not worry about it. And then I make it from beginning to the end of the song with my patch changes by just using up some sliders just for safety here, and because I kind of want to see what I have this set up to. But I have them set up to, these are just set up for whatever the MIDI volume command is set to. If we come over here to the edit window, we can see that this is where you can kind of put in whatever sliders, faders, knobs, buttons, whatever you want, you can put in here. This is where you do it, where you edit your panels. We can also edit our global panels. The global panels are what's on every track. So you can see in the global settings, all of these sliders and these panning controls and these mute switches. This is all for my IEM rig. I have all of these assigned to everybody's sound, and it controls my IEM. And this is wonderful because it's on a touch screen, and I can literally touch the screen and raise or lower whatever I need to here. Let's go back to the actual individual patch. So I got play and stop buttons, which are controlling play and stop functions, all the way over, linked over also to, hold on, Ableton. With the link button enabled and the link button enabled here, these two are linked up and talking to each other. Ableton created the link command. There's certain other MIDI functions that can be done where you can link two devices up without using Ableton's proprietary link controls. I guess it's a little bit better, but yes, that can be done. So if I hit the stop button, this should stop. This is playing right now. You can see it's running through everything. If I hit the stop button over here, I have, oh, let me get out of edit. If I hit the stop button over here, look at that, it stopped it. And it's kind of doing this thing with the green bar showing that it's synced. It's synced to this, which happens to be at BPM 134. So that's how that works. So this is communicating with this, and I never really have to come over here unless I need to do some serious editing in here. So I never really see Ableton. Once I'm done, I'm always working over here. All right, now let's look at the actual setup. I'm going to click the wiring screen, and there's a wiring for the global settings too, right? These are global wiring commands that I have set up. What's that for? I can't. Oh, that's for my IEMs. All of this is going right to my IEMs. That's my IEM mixer, which is assigned to all of the fader controls. So you can see I had to do a lot of work with that. Moved a lot of wires together. Let's go back to this intro patch for MalletKAT. So I have a widget. They call them widgets. They automatically put these widgets in. You can see I'm not using it at all. It's just automatically there. They always do that, the in and the out for the audio interface. And then they have individual outputs for all of them. This is 34 channels here. Then you just start adding widgets for all of your devices. So I need a widget for my physical controllers, such as my MalletKAT. Here's Steve's Taurus pedals. I got two widgets set up for this, even though it's one Taurus pedal. Each widget is doing something a little different, and I had to use the actual widget control. So if I click inside a widget, you can see there's lots of functions that we can do. This is like, what do I want to receive and not receive? I have set this up to say you only receive on MIDI channel 1. I have every Cat 1 and every patch set up to be MIDI channel 1. So controller 1 on my MalletKAT's always MIDI channel 1. No confusion there. Guess what I did with controller 2? I've made it MIDI channel 4, of course, not MIDI channel 2. And so I pretty much just have that set for receiving and not receiving certain information. And you notice I turn a lot of stuff off just because I don't want to have any confusion. If there's any places where something's not acting right, it's just good to turn some things off that you don't need. And so this MIDI output then goes to where my actual sounds are. And this widget has my audio producing sound VST instrument. I primarily use Reason because I've known Reason forever. I think it's cool looking. It's easy to work with. I can flip around the back and like wire things up crazy if I want to. They have tons of different devices that I can use that mimic things from since the Mini Moog to today. There's things that are not even available today in a kind of non-software format. There's billions of effects I can add to it. I can combine all of these instruments to make some mega powerful instrument. I can do all kinds of crazy things. I just have one instrument here for this lead sound because it's a pretty simple lead sound, and I probably it looks like I stole a patch and I probably edited it up a little bit to make it tweak it up a little bit. And then here's my organ, which is assigned to controller 2. And so anything that comes out of MIDI channel 2, which is on controller 2 on the MalletKAT, is going to trigger this organ, which is just a old sampler organ sound that I like that they had that's been around since 2000 when I bought Reason. And then you can see they're both going audio output left and right to the physical outputs of the 32R, which will then, the PreSonus 32R, which will then be sent out to our ears and front of house. And you can see that for the bass, I also have for the Taurus bass pedals that the bassist is playing. He's going out channel 7 of the 32R, and so that's got its own channel ready for that. That's pretty much how it works. So there's the MIDI widget for that, right? I think I needed to use this chord maker program to reassign notes. So actually C on his pedal isn't really C, and this isn't really D flat, and this isn't really E, it's something else. Let's see, if I click on it, am I going to mess things up? Nope. So this D is actually playing A, right? And then this one has a bass repeat, which is basically eighth notes that are synced to the click. So I'm going to hit play back on this thing and get it playing. And you can see that there's the Reason sound for it. Let me go over here. So now if I click on this. So we want that to stick. We want that to sync. So is it synced to the click? I'm going to turn the click on over here in Ableton real quick, if I can find it. It's over here. There we go. And it's not playing right now. Let's see if I can get it to play real quick. Okay. So now if we come back, I already have this. This is synced to the click. So Steve doesn't have to sit there with his foot going up and down really fast the whole time during the song, which would be really difficult to do and probably hurt your shin after about 30 seconds. He can just hold the pedal down and it just goes dut, 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 dut to the click. And so that works great. And then he has some whole notes he has to play, which he uses for that, which we reassign notes even. So that's a pretty interesting setup there that works for that. And then I just split this. So now I just got a simple one that just has the organ. No matter how hard or soft I hit it, it's the organ. And then I have one that's just the lead. And I have two different kind of versions of the lead. You can see I also have some bell sounds I made that are kind of there in the solo section that I reassigned down at the bottom of the keyboard that are kind of cool on controller 2. But for the most part, it's this lead sound. And I have one that says to stop the click. Is my click still going? I'm going to turn this click off just to make sure. Okay. So just to stop the click if we go there. I like this click. We don't like to play the click a lot of times. It gets in the way. It's kind of annoying and makes you feel like a robot. So halfway through Abacab, when we go to the instrumental section, Steve doesn't play that repeated bass thing ever again. He goes to his regular bass and doesn't really use the Taurus pedals. And so I just make sure the click stops when we go there. So when we get to this one right here, this is assigned to stopping the click sound. But if you see, if I use a lead up here, I have it assigned to the click is still playing. So how do we control other things? So we have this link command, and this is talking with Ableton. And we also have video controls, which I also have some things synced to the click. But all that syncing is going on inside of Ableton. And we also have some DMX lighting controls, too, which we are using in Ableton. So you can see this click here. And you can see that it's making the screen jitter in time. So I actually... making the screen jitter in time, in case you didn't hear me over the click. And so what we have over here is I have an effects unit with a trigger. A MIDI trigger is triggering this bass drum sound that we can't hear, which is causing this to trigger in time. I am triggering it with its own channel with a MIDI click here. So then it turns it into audio, which this audio input device can hear and relate to, and it's creating this RGB shift. So I have motion controls with that. I have to use the most expensive version of Ableton. I luckily got it for free because I was teaching a course, and an Ableton rep came by and gave a little demonstration, and he gave me a free copy of it. So now I thank him for that. But you do need the top version because you need Max for Live. Max for Live is a programming language that also involves dealing with video and audio, basically. With Max for Live embedded in this, lots of people started programming their own little programs inside of this, inside of Max, which link up with Ableton very nicely. This program called Ebo Suite is a video program that basically uses all of this stuff in Max, in Ableton, uses all of the types of devices in Ableton, and you can use those for video instead of audio. So I'm actually kind of working with samplers and drum machines and using those for audio control instead of video control instead of audio control. So I really like it because it's intuitive for me, because I'm not very good with video, and it makes total sense to me. So I can loop a video and just have it do stuff, and I can apply effects to it, video effects to it, and have those effects triggered the way I want them to, and I love it. I mean, if I hit the mute button, it basically mutes the screen here to where you don't see it anymore. Let me see if I can. See? I muted it. Right. And I think the fader even would kind of darken it. But, well, let's see if it does. Hold on. Here we go. See? Look at that. Look at that. Brightness controls on the fader. All right. So, yeah. Come on. That's insane. All right. How do we get this to happen? Usually I'm sending MIDI messages of some sort, either a CC command, a continuous controller message, or a note on command. As you can see here for Abacab 1, I have 3 of these, and so I assigned it to the 3 different patches I have. So each screen is different. Every time I do a patch change for myself, it does a patch change for the video. And this is, so I got Astronaut 1 here, got Astronaut 2. I have a MIDI command to trigger to start this on this one, but the other 2 are CC commands that are set to scene select. I have CC14 set to scene select, and so those are sending CC commands. So over here in Gig Performer, it's sending either a MIDI or CC command. And here under Actions, I double-clicked on this, and I have some MIDI messages sent and another program change message sent for, I can't remember what that's for. I wish I could. Oh well. But this is the note on MIDI message for triggering that scene for the video, right? So basically this is controlling Ableton. Whatever I need to do with Ableton, I need to set it up in Ableton so it's ready to receive whatever is coming from here. Everything I'm doing is here. Setting up tempo changes also are important. I didn't see the tempo change. There's one there, but that's not highlighted. Where did I set up the tempo change? Oh, you know what? I have the tempo changes set up over here. I found it worked better if the tempo changes were here. So this is actually telling Gig Performer what tempo every song is in. So yeah, they can speak either way, you know. Other than that, I think I explained things pretty well, and should have a video demonstration of that too.